The morning at Fort Valor does not begin with comfort. It begins with silence heavy as stone, a silence broken only by boots striking against the earth. The air is thick with mist, clinging to the skin, making every breath sharp, every sound echo. The recruits stand in line, nervous eyes darting, each one carrying the same question hidden deep in their chest. Will I survive this place, or will this place break me? Into that silence walks Sergeant Riley Dawson. She does not rush, she does not raise her voice, yet the atmosphere shifts the moment she arrives. Her steps are measured, deliberate, and every scar on her skin speaks louder than any speech ever could. She does not need to introduce herself. Her presence says it all. This is not a playground, this is not a test. This is war before the war even begins. Her gaze cuts across the formation, steady and unflinching. She sees fear, pride, arrogance, uncertainty, but she does not flinch. Instead, she lets them feel the weight of the ground they stand on, the weight of history beneath their feet. Fort Valor is not just a base. It is an anvil, and she, scarred and unyielding, is the hammer. When she finally speaks, her voice is not a shout, but it carries like thunder rolling through mountains. This ground will not care about your comfort. These walls will not bend to your excuses. Here, you will either rise or you will crumble. Here, weakness is burned away until only steel remains. Each word strikes not just in their ears, but in their bones. In that moment, the recruits understand. Fort Valor is not where soldiers are trained. Fort Valor is where ordinary flesh is broken and reforged. It is where fear turns into fire, where hesitation is carved away, and where those who endure walk out not as the people who entered, but as something harder, stronger, unshakable. This is not just a place. This is the forge. And steel is the only thing that survives fire. Private Monroe had a smirk that could cut through silence sharper than any blade. He stood in formation not with humility, but with arrogance, as if the world owed him recognition before he had earned a single stripe. His eyes fell on Sergeant Riley Dawson's scars, marks carved deep into her flesh, written across her arms and face like chapters of a story he never cared to read. To him, those scars were weakness, proof that she had once been broken. And in his pride, he laughed. The barracks carried his whispers, his mockery hidden behind jokes, but Riley heard them. She always heard. Yet she did not answer with anger. She did not waste her breath on a boy who thought strength was measured by untouched skin. She let silence be her shield, because she knew what Monroe did not. Scars are not signs of failure. They are proof of survival. Each one was a battlefield carved into her body, a testimony that she had gone through fire and returned alive. But arrogance is a blindfold. Monroe wore it proudly. He mistook survival for weakness, mistook humility for fear, mistook scars for shame. He believed a soldier was defined by how unbroken he appeared, how untouchable he seemed. He did not yet understand that every unmarked man is only untested, that the clean body is often the one that has never stood in true fire. Riley's silence was not surrender. It was judgment waiting for its moment, for she knew what Monroe could not. The battlefield does not reward pride, it strips it away. A mocking laugh may echo for a second, but when the bullets fly, when the fire burns, when the air turns thick with smoke and blood, pride will not save him. Only endurance will. Only scars will. And so the weight of Riley's scars, though unspoken, pressed heavier on that camp than Monroe's arrogance ever could. He had mocked what he did not yet understand. But time, discipline, and fire would teach him the truth. Scars are not the end of strength. They are the beginning of it. And every soldier who survives long enough to earn them carries not shame, but honor. Training at Fort Valor was not designed for comfort. It was designed to break illusions. The drills grew harsher each day, mud-swallowing boots, rifles weighing down tired shoulders, lungs screaming for air, while the sergeants pushed harder and harder. Private Monroe, once so loud with his pride, began to stumble. His smirk cracked under the strain of endless hours, and the weight of his own arrogance started pressing heavier than the gear on his back. Riley never raised her voice, never entertained his weakness with anger or ridicule. Instead, she stood unshaken. She carried herself with a silence that burned hotter than words, her scars glowing in the sweat and sun like metals carved by fire itself. Where Monroe faltered, Riley endured. Where he collapsed in frustration, she marched forward, her strength speaking louder than any speech could. There came a moment, a brutal night exercise in smoke and fire, when Monroe froze. His lungs filled with panic, his body trembling under pressure. The chaos swallowed him, and the illusion of his invincibility shattered in that instant. He realized he was not the unbreakable soldier he had pretended to be. His strength was only a mask, and masks do not survive in fire. And then he saw Riley, carrying weight twice her own, moving through the same smoke without hesitation, her silence steady, her presence unshaken. In her calm, he saw true power. In her endurance, he saw what leadership truly was. It was not the loudest voice, not the boldest swagger, but the one who bore the burden without complaint, who pushed forward when every muscle screamed to quit. That night, Monroe's arrogance died in the fire. His illusion shattered, replaced by something raw, something he had never felt before: humility. And though he would not admit it aloud, he knew then that the strength he mocked, the scars he laughed at, were the very things he lacked. Riley's silence had spoken louder than his pride ever could. Graduation day at Fort Valor was unlike any other. The air was crisp, the parade ground alive with the sound of boots striking in unison. The recruits stood straighter now, sharper. Every ounce of weakness burned away through weeks of fire and steel. Among them stood Private Monroe, no longer carrying the same arrogance that once defined him. His eyes, once mocking, now held a different light, the weight of lessons carved deep into his soul. He glanced toward Sergeant Riley Dawson. For weeks he had laughed at her, dismissed her scars, mistaken silence for weakness. But today, none of that mockery remained. In its place stood a respect he could not put into words. Every scar she bore now looked different to him, no longer reminders of wounds, but signatures of sacrifice, marks of a warrior who had endured what others could not. When his name was called, Monroe stepped forward. His salute was not casual, not careless. It was sharp, deliberate, heavy with meaning. For the first time in his life, he understood what that gesture truly meant. Not obedience to a rank, but honor given to a leader who had earned it. His salute was not just to Sergeant Dawson. It was to everything she represented: endurance, sacrifice, and the unbreakable spirit of a soldier. Riley returned the salute with the same calm strength she had shown since day one. She did not smile, she did not speak. She did not need to. The respect Monroe had finally learned to give was her silent victory. She had not argued with him, had not humiliated him. She had simply let the fire of Fort Valor and the truth of her own scars teach him the lesson he needed. And so, on that parade ground, a transformation was complete. Monroe was no longer the arrogant boy who had arrived mocking the weight of scars. He was a soldier now, not because of the uniform he wore, but because of the humility, discipline, and respect that had been forged into him. In that moment, a truth echoed through Fort Valor's: soldiers are not born, they are remade in fire. And Monroe had finally been reborn.